Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Hustler Live Show. I have an amazing guest today. I know I've been off for a couple of weeks with the Hustler Show, but I'm back. Sometimes the guest has to reschedule. But rest assured, I'm back with an amazing guest who has an amazing story that she will be sharing with you guys today. Her name is Kris Chau. She is an entrepreneur coach. She actually was in a different business. Her entire business got wiped out in the pandemic. She was an event planner. She had an event planning business for 10 years. And then 2020 March, we got hit with the global pandemic, COVID, and pretty much overnight, her business is gone. It got wiped out. So she's going to share her journey of that experience, how a business got wiped out, and then what she did in the pandemic and how she launched a new business. So here joining me today is Kris Chau. Hi, Kris. How are you?
Hi. Thanks so much for having me, Gurpreet.
You're welcome. So as I was telling the viewers that your journey is interesting. Well, you hit a really hard time where your entire business in the pandemic was pretty much gone, like wiped out. I call it like kind of like overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Is so let's talk about that. Would you want to share like, how you were in the business for 10 years and when pandemic happened, that your business being wiped out, how did that make you feel?
Well, it was pretty scary. It was definitely unnerving. We didn't know, how long this was going to be. So in the beginning, it was a lot of scrambling to reschedule events, thinking that maybe naively, thinking that we could maybe reschedule for fall and hopefully continue on with the events that I had scheduled. I was also going to be producing Canada's first premium rum festival, so that was a whole other project that I was working on. And so scrambling to get the sponsors to still stay on board. Again, trying to get our new spaces secured. So it was a lot of uncertainty and upheaval.
Okay. So what did you do? Like when
Well,
that happened, did you so I want to get in the heart of it.
yeah.
If you open to be vulnerable and share that experience, well, a lot of times people kind of don't share the nitty-gritty of the actual emotion. So let's get into heart of it if you're comfortable to really shed some light, because you're not alone. You were not
Yeah.
the only person, the only business that got hit so hard in the pandemic. I can imagine how many other industries and other small little businesses just like yourself got wiped out, completely gone in the pandemic. So let's talk on the emotional impact, the mental impact. How was that?
At first, to be honest, I just loaded up as much work as I could do. I was volunteering. I joined a board for the hospitality industry. I was, again, pivoting my rum festival online. I was helping my boyfriend produce concerts at home. I was doing all of these things because that's my go-to mode is hustle, 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 go, go, go. And I didn't even let myself process the emotions of what was happening at first. And then I would say about May, and by end of May, I was so burnt out. I had a little mini breakdown, and I quit everything that I was doing. And then that's when I started to actually allow the emotions to purge and to come out. There was a bit of a sense of failure, even though it's something that was out of my,
Control.
control. To know that like something that I've been working on and building for 10 years was like gone like that was a really devastating feeling. And so, after I sort of gave myself the space to like feel all the emotions of the loss, the sense of loss, mourning my business, mourning my identity that I had tied so closely to my business, I then said to myself, you know what? I have never taken a sabbatical. I have never taken a break. I have like worked my entire life. I've worked very hard for what I have. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe I need to actually take this time. And it was a hard process to learn how to just be. As somebody who is a type A personality, who's go, go, go all the time, it's very hard to unlearn, that sort of sense of mentality, and to really actually just let yourself enjoy life as best as I could. I got into a little bit of gardening on my deck. I read a lot. I chilled out. All this kind of stuff that I would never do for myself. But it took me a while because that was a very uncomfortable feeling.
So how did you grieve the loss? Mourn the loss? It was a big loss.
It was a big loss. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, at first I kind of just shut down, or I got really busy and then I shut down, and then a lot of it took time in terms of I did therapy. I also, I do a lot of journaling. I like to do that kind of stuff. Writing has always been cathartic for myself. Talk to friends, cried about it, connect with other people who were going through the same sort of loss. Trying to stay positive and help uplift other people really does also help me and myself to know that, regardless of what situation I was in, I was still in a privileged position to have a partner who was still, working and all this kind of good stuff. So I really wanted to make sure that I didn't lose sight of that perspective. And that's why I, took the time and made sure also a lot of the other people around me were doing well as well, and trying to help out as much as I could.
Okay. Now, when the pandemic happened, we heard so much pivot. And just earlier, you pivot, you were online concerts, online events. So how was that? How did that look like? So you tried pivoting.
I did.
So because I want to touch on this, because we so many people are talking about pivoting, but I want you to share your pivot story, because it is unique. Like, it was events where what happened, people weren't showing up to the event. So let's talk about the pivoting that you did, like in your own field before you went a whole different route of your business.
Yeah.
So pivoting steps that you took, walk us through that, and then what happened? Like, was it successful?
So yes, we did go to online. So the Rum Festival started to do weekly events online. At first it was sort of like a sense of camaraderie to, be together and just chat about all different things. And then we started to highlight speakers. But, it was a lot of work. And to produce online content, as you know, and being a host of a show, I was more actually on the back end side. I was on the production side of things. My partner was being the host. But managing all the details, again, it's similar to what we were doing in events, but the technical aspect is not something that I was super savvy at. But I had to learn quickly and try new things. So, everyone jumped on Zoom, and it was like, okay, how do I create a Zoom background that has our branding? How do we market this? What is the value add that we're giving people? Is this just, simply a get together? Sure. But we tried and thought about ways and how we could monetize, the situation, to see if there was things we could do. But, given that we're dealing with a spirit and alcohol, and I was living in Ontario, the liquor laws are quite difficult to navigate. And so there wasn't really a component where we could do a tasting event legally. I mean, I know that there was a lot of things that happened, but legally we decided, in our own best interest, to not do something like that.
Yeah, so but how did you can do that virtually?
Yeah. Well, that's it. You have to send product to people.
Yeah.
And legally, we're not a distributor of alcohol.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah. So there was a lot of loopholes. We looked into a lot of it. Trust me, I did a lot of research connecting with the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. But honestly, all of it was just a lot of work for very little. I mean, I think that people enjoyed it who were joining, but to be honest, myself, I didn't enjoy it at all. It honestly became a source of a lot of stress It was not the reason why I got into events. Events for me was to bring people together and have experiences in real life, not online. And I really did not like that disconnect, and also having the stresses of dealing with, we were just talking about technical issues like connections, connectivity with
Yeah,
streaming, all
everything
this kind of stuff.
But
I hated all of that.
Even did you, like, in your opinion, did you find that people wanted to hop on online when overnight pretty much a lot of the workforces had to go pivot and become online? The whole Zoom fatigue was going on. People started talking about Zoom fatigue. But did you find that 8 hours at work, and you're kind of, especially if you were already doing remote and you're on Zoom calls all day, did you find that people then wanted to show up to an online event?
I mean, it was at the beginning. You definitely had more attendance, and then we saw it slowly drop down to the point again where I said, okay, we're approaching summer. Maybe we take this to once a month or something like that. But in the end, honestly, like when I had that little meltdown, when I had my breakdown with everything that was going on, I just said, I can't. I need to just step away completely because I need this time for myself. I need to figure out I need some time for me to grieve and figure out what I'm doing with my life.
So then how did you decide that this is it? I'm done. I'm not going to be event planner anymore, and I'm going to go start a whole new thing. How did that come to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, that wasn't necessarily an overnight thing, but what I did, like I said, is I did take the time to have the summer to sort of just relax and enjoy life and not think about it and put that much pressure on myself. I think that is something that I've often done in my life, is to have high expectations for myself and for those around me. And really, this was a lot of an opportunity for me to do a lot of self-reflection work. And so what happened is, I actually had a position previously where I worked in an advertising agency, and I did a lot of talent and culture management. And in that role, I did do some mentorship and coaching, and I actually got some courses, funded, and I took some of those. So I had it already in the back of my mind. That was something that I might want to revisit. And so near fall, I started to read books on it. I started to take out, books. I started to talk to people. And then serendipitously, I was just mentioning it to a friend, and I think we're both connected to the coach I worked with, Rob Gilbert. So he was introduced to me. We had a chat and we connected because we come from similar backgrounds. We used to be a DJ. I used to be an event planner. We were in entertainment. And we both had this sense of like, we really love helping people. We really want to give back and utilize our experiences. And how do we do that? And so I wasn't necessarily looking for a coach. I actually only went to him because I wanted to get a sense of what it was like to be a coach. But I didn't expect to hire him as a coach. But that was one of the greatest things that I could have done for myself. It really helped propel my journey and really solidified my sense of being and saying, yeah, you know what, I can do this. I do have a lot of value to offer. I have been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I've been a solo entrepreneur, which means you manage everything on your own. Yep. So I've navigated business, and helping people is something that I've always enjoyed doing. Let's bring all of this together, and how do we do that? And so I went through this journey with him in the fall. But at the same time, I was living in Toronto, which is a very, very expensive city. And even though my partner was working, he's in the entertainment industry as well. And we thought around, I want to say Thanksgiving weekend, there was talk of that next lockdown again after we'd been free for the summer. And I thought to myself, oh, geez, if you get laid off and we have another lockdown, I don't know how we're going to afford to live. And I don't want this stress in my life. We should not have to be forced to choose between our livelihood, like our livelihood versus, like just actually having a roof over our head and food to eat.
Yeah.
And so that is what brought us to the decision to actually move out of Toronto during a pandemic, which is a bit wild.
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey for you with the pandemic. Pandemic's obviously been a whole roller coaster and a journey for you. So you end up hiring Rob. That's how actually we connected, because we had the golf coach We both have the same coaches as a common connection. So then he helped you through it, and then you now you launched. And when did you launch your new business? Coaching entrepreneurs.
So yeah, so it's so funny. I started with Rob maybe let's say September, and we made this decision in October. And then 6 weeks later, we were in Nicaragua, which is actually where I am currently. So within 6 weeks, we packed up our lives, sold off most of our belongings, and made the trek out to Nicaragua. We both had lived here before. It's a beautiful country. It's got a very lower cost of living. And I wanted that flexibility while I pursued this new passion of mine. And so I worked with Rob actually all until beginning of this year, and I worked on my business and building my offerings and what I could do, and I launched that in June. So it's very brand new, but I'm really proud of everything that I've done to date, and I'm really excited about the journey ahead. And the exciting part about where I'm at right now is I can relate again to everyone else who's starting out as an entrepreneur who is going through those same struggles, because even though I'm an experienced entrepreneur, there's definitely a different way that you have to market yourself these days. Yeah. And content creation, all of this kind of stuff was not stuff that I used to do in my business. So it's been new, but it's been awesome because I like learning new things. And so it's been a really interesting journey so far.
So how do you help entrepreneurs?
Sure, of course, that's a good question. So there is often a feeling of being alone when you are a solopreneur, and that's specifically I'm helping service-based solopreneurs because that's what I once was. And so when you are service-based, your business is you. You are your brand, and I think a lot of times people forget that. And so we go back to a lot of foundational root work where we, help people understand who they are and their unique, value proposition, because it's also tied to your own personal brand. And I think sometimes people think that there's a difference between the two, where I like to say, no, we need to unapologetically own who we are because we are our business. And that is what's going to make people relate to us.
I remember reading when I started my entrepreneur journey, I came across this great book. It's called, it's on my iPad. I'm trying to grab it. It's a blueprint to, I think it's called Blueprint, something about branding. And what I learned was the same thing that as you were talking about branding, you got it. A lot of times companies, solo entrepreneurs, as you start the business, we focus too much on branding the company versus branding ourselves. And I think that's where the most value add is when you brand yourself. Because as you said, people do business with people. We're doing business with people. People are not buying a service and a product, they're buying you. They're buying you, you, especially if you're in a service-based industry. So I remember reading this book. I'm going to find it. It's on my iPad. I remember it's actually a really great book. And the wordings resonated that you need to build yourself as a brand. Before you do anything, build yourself as a brand, right? And I give this advice to beyond entrepreneurs. I give this advice now to every single person out there, including career professionals. You need to build yourself as a brand, and that's how you will attract more and more opportunities. So personal branding is, I think, where a lot of people do lack. Yeah.
Yes. So it's all rooted in that foundation of personal branding work and who you are and what your offering is, in order for us to determine some strategies and actions for your business goals in itself. So the first part of a lot of the work is rooted in that, and then we move on into marketing, communications, as well as strategy and operations. Those are two areas from my background as an event marketer, producer. Logistics were definitely my it's just like a forerunner in my skill sets, but also the other side of things being the marketing and the communication side of things.
So when you work with entrepreneurs, actually, before I jump into another question, you did a poll yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, on the topic that people wanted you to talk about. So what was the winner? What was the topic that people wanted you to talk on? Or something people wanted you to talk
the biggest. It was very interesting. It definitely fluctuated a little bit, but the forerunner is reinvention and my career change. So we're talking about that right now, which is great. And we've now touched on the fact that I've moved to Nicaragua. So part of the other second one was being a digital nomad. And so the trials and tribulations of that, there's definitely lots of benefits. You know, looking outside right now, I see beautiful, lush jungle greenery. I can see the ocean down that way. But also, on the flip side, there's a lot of other things you have to manage. Technical stuff, setting up in a new space, constantly living in a suitcase, those sorts of challenges. So those were the two big things that people definitely were interested in hearing about.
So what would you want to share now?
Yeah, so I think, you know, when we go back to talking about personal brand and who we are, what I did, a lot of the work that I did with myself and also with Rob, we looked at who I was as a person. And I know my core values. I know that freedom is one of them. My freedom to express myself, freedom to travel, see the world, not be tied to anywhere, which is why I became an entrepreneur. That is a really big core value of mine. Also service, love. I mean, I'm a very loving and caring person. I've always been this way. I've always been a very open person, which is why my network is so big. And being able to understand that those things are going to help me make the decisions in my life have always really been, it's been my compass, if you will. And it's something that I also really like to talk about with clients or potential clients, because again, knowing your core values is about who you are. And that again will reflect in your corporate brand, whatever your business brand. They should be aligned, because if you're not in alignment, you're not going to, there's going to be feeling of imbalance, and you're not going to be sure, or you're going to be hesitating on taking action for certain things. So for me to make this decision to move to Nicaragua, I really looked in myself, looked at what my core values are, and I knew what I wanted it to speak to and what I wanted to redesign my life. And this is not for everyone. This is not for everyone. But what I want to say to anyone out there who is considering any sort of transition in their life, make sure you are honoring who you are and your core values, because that's the only way you're going to feel that fulfillment that you're probably seeking.
Well said. Now,
and yeah,
I think a lot of times we are not honoring ourselves and our values and what we stand for, and a lot of times we don't own it.
Yeah. Well, and we have a lot of fear of judgment. We fear of judgment. We have fear of societal, or we succumb to societal pressures as to who we should be and what we should do, especially as us, as women, or women of color, for example. I mean, that's something I also speak about a lot, how as women, we are not taught to be confident. We are not taught to own who we are and be brave about that. We are told to dim our light.
I remember last week something popped out on my feed, and I talked on this, like right now in Canada, South Asian women are the most highest unemployed. The rate of unemployed women, actually South Asians, it beats all races right now. South Asian women in Canada are the highest unemployed. And it just I couldn't believe it. And I wrote a post on this. I started talking to multiple people trying to get some kind of resources or something going. I've been on the phone the whole past week with multiple people in my connections. But what I realized when I started to reflect back, and I actually wrote on confidence and stuff. And as you're talking about, we're not taught that. I remember one scene that's now stuck in my head. Growing up, little girl, turning as I'm getting older, I remember, as women, particularly in South Asian women are taught from an early age that men are superior. So like when you're walking in public and a man's coming, look down.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught to do this because that's a cultural thing. And just started conditioning that way because, a generation and generation of women in South Asian be conditioned, you just look down and you walk, right? I don't remember how old I was, or maybe when I was 20, in my 20s, or was like in my early 20s. I came across a survey thing to do, and I was doing a survey about confidence and stuff like that. And it said, when you are walking in public, when someone's coming your direction, do you look down? And I said, yeah. And you know what it said the result was? And when I said, yes, I do. And it said that that's one example that you have low confidence. Only low confidence people will look down as someone's approaching them. And that stuck to my head ever since. So I started consciously making a decision, and it was a really hard transition because all these years I've been conditioned to, you look down when a male is coming and you walk through, you don't make eye contact, nothing. You just look down and go, right? So that little piece that said that when I clicked, yeah, I looked down, and then the result said, well, you have low confidence. And I was like, what? I had to then, I started becoming self-aware of every time I did it. I was like, no, I gotta look up. But the transition is so hard. But yes, how many times have we been taught as colored women, the different cultures we come from, that men are superior and women we're not, and we need to put men's needs before us. Like, it's just so mental conditioning, and it starts from birth.
Yes, it really does. And it's something that I am trying to, help break for a lot of women, and especially as, service-based industries, a lot of women are employed in those industries. And I was actually on CTV recently talking about the She Session and how the gender inequality and the racial inequality is a gap that is widening since the pandemic. It's always been there, but it's been exacerbated by this. And this is a very serious issue that we need to be talking about all the time. It's great to have seen the Me Too movement or, having discussions on International Women's Day, but those are just isolated events. These are conversations we need to be having every day. We need to be challenging people around us, ourselves, because we have ingrained biases, we have ingrained like cultural actions that we take. So we also need to combat that within ourselves. Like you said, it's a mindset switch. And it is a very big challenge. However, it's a challenge that we can overcome. And you are clearly an example of that.
Yeah, it's I agree with you. It's something that we should be talking about it every day. I stopped posting about International Women's Day because I'm like, one day everybody is now posting about it, but the real question is, well, what are you doing every day? Jenny, Jen and my connections, she posted this last week. I think it was around diversity and the events, and she was pretty much calling out people, podcasts, events, and all that stuff. That, well, how do you applaud yourself when you lack diversity in your guests? And I became very vocal about this for the past few years. I vocally have wrote comments, especially last year. I saw so many people doing events, and I was like, well, I don't see myself in these speakers. Where's the colored people? It was all line of white people, and I was like, okay, but nice event, but you lack diversity, and nothing came out of it. So I also wrote a comment on Jen's post too. I'm like, we can shout and do whatever we want. We can turn blue in our faces doing it. The real change actually happens with each individual. And I talked about this multiple times. If we really want any change in this world, be it we want equality, diversity, we want equal pay, and women should have X, Y, Z, whatever we want, it starts with us inside. You, me, we've been already doing this, but it starts with every single person. We can't change anything if people are not self-aware. And I can go on about this forever, but the problem is diversity lacks. Why? Because as individuals, we lack diversity. I tell people, well, look around you. Who are your friends? Who do you associate with? There's absolutely no excuses for any events out there to not be diversified. We're having diversified speakers. There's absolutely no excuse. And I'll call out everybody that's not diversifying the events. Like, shame on you. There's absolutely no excuse if you really wanted to do it. But I'm gonna go back to the individual level. It does start on simple as, well, who do you surround yourself with? Do you have diverse people in your circle of friends, your network? Do you have, if you're men, do you have women in your network, in your connections, your friends, or is it just men, right? Same thing with women. Do you surround yourself with diversified females? Do you surround yourself with other men too? Like, there needs to be a healthy balance. So it's a tough thing, but I think together, if everybody starts making a conscious decision every day that I want to do better, I want, there's so much talk on this whole diversity stuff, but I just think that a lot of people don't understand that the fact that diversity starts with you, because even in workplaces, humans are working, right? We're dealing with people, so in the end of the day, I think you're right. I think we don't talk enough on these topics. We don't create awareness, but the biggest thing I coming to realize is that we also lack implementation. Talk, but no one's really actually seeing the problem. No one's saying, hey, we need to do this. Let's put this thing together and let's make it happen. So much talk, but no action.
Yeah. I mean, I think for us on individual levels as women who are entrepreneurs you have your show here. I do one also on Instagram called Flourish Fridays. And again, it is about uplifting other women. And we diversify, we show other people, because I do want other people to see representation matters.
Yeah.
It matters so greatly for anyone of any age, but especially impressionable young people. To see people who have the same skin tone as them, who, come from a different background, to be doing what they do. I've had people message me, saying, thank you. I came across and I found another Asian woman who is speaking out and who's doing something that is empowering, and that's really awesome to see. And that's really why I do what I do and why I talk about these issues. Yes, I ruffle some feathers probably, but I don't care. I really quite don't. And that is who I am. And I clearly put that on my website as well. I talk about these things because they're very important to me. And I want the people who work with me to also be aligned with this, because that means we, again, are going to make a lot of things happen together if we are in alignment on these sorts of things and these beliefs.
I read a line a few weeks ago that said, if nobody hates you, then you're playing it too safe. So
yeah.
not playing it safe. When you said I fizzle some feathers, so applaud you for not playing safe, because that's what change requires, right? You can't play it safe and expect things to change. You have to do something to make a change. And when you do take that action, yes, not everyone's gonna like it, but you still have to stay true to yourself, as you said earlier. Stay alignment with who you are, what you stand for. And so I applaud you for that. Thank you for taking the initiative on your show on Instagram to make it diversified, take that step, and really dedicate to showing diverse 5 females that everyone can resonate, because there is a story with every individual that we can connect to. So applaud you for that, and more power to you, and keep doing a great job. So we're near the end of the show. What's 1 or 2 or 3? Let's limit it to 3. If you had to give advice today, this very moment, that it can change even just one person's life, just listening to you today, what would that be?
Oh, that's a heavy one.
I know.
That's okay. That's okay. I welcome it. When I talked about my own core values, it's something that I've been talking about lately, because I do have a program where, we talk as the foundation. And I have found, I did polls where people think they know their core values. They say, yes, we know our core values, or no, I don't know my core values. I'm out of whack. I'm out of alignment. And really digging a little bit further deeper and knowing, when I ask some further prompts or questions about that. So I'm actually going to do a live tomorrow where I'm going to do some of this with people who said, yes, I know my core values, and we're going to go take a little bit of a deeper dive into that, as well as people who said no. Because I think on both sides of the spectrum, there needs to be a little bit of freedom to understand that you may think that you don't know. Maybe you just haven't dug enough deeper. But there are things there that will indicate what you know about your core values. On the flip side, of people who are very confident about their core values, there may be some questions there that may make you reconsider and say, is that truly a core value, or is that just something that you kind of perceive as being important to you in your life? But I really do believe in that alignment, and I really do believe it's going to help you with a variety of things. Just making simple decisions in your everyday life, core values. Something that Rob taught me and that I've done too, and I always encourage everyone to do is write them down. I have them in the beginning of my notebook. I've actually also put them in if I have my office, I set up, which I don't because I'm a digital nomad. But when I get there, have those things up there, because you want to see these things every day and remind yourself and do a check-in with yourself on these, because they can also change over time, and that's okay. You're not set to something in stone, and that is another big thing I think, as another takeaway. Nothing is permanent or forever.
Nothing.
Things can change. And so, it's not the end of the world. Something that looks like it's, a really shitty situation. Oh, sorry, I swore. But
it's fine.
If something looks like we're all adults here. It's a situation that seems like it's negative or it's challenging. Yes, in the sort of initial period, there can be a lot of unpleasant feelings. However, there's generally always a learning to be had from it, and always an opportunity for you to reframe that.
Perfect. Okay, so guys, we're at the end of our show today. So thank you, Kris, for joining and sharing your story, how you got wiped out, and how you reinvented yourself. So more power to you.
Thank you.
Truly a hustler. To finish this is what the show is all about, bringing individuals to share their story on how they overcame obstacles and challenges. And honestly, yours is one amazing, powerful story. I hope it impacts others to listen to your story, because you didn't fall and said, I'm done. You took the time off to reinvent yourself, figure out, get some clarity. Clarity is where I think a lot of people lack, a lot of times we lack clarity on what we really want, and we're too afraid to go deeper inside our souls, to look deep inside, to get the clarity we need, and just own who we are. We're just always wearing masks and living a fake life or fake versions of ourselves because we're too busy trying to please people. We want everyone to like us. We don't want anyone to hate us. But the true power is in owning who you are, just all the hard work you put in. Got Rob as a coach to help you get clarity on what is it that you want. And I'm so happy that you got that clarity and you're now coaching others on how to be a successful entrepreneur. So more power to you. Now, how can someone get in touch with you?
Thank you so much for great. Well, I am here on LinkedIn, Kris Chau, KrisChau. I'm also, my website is the same, thekris.com. And also I'm on Instagram, Kris Chau. It's all very easy.
Kris Chau. There you guys have it. Connect with her, follow her LinkedIn, Instagram, her website. I did tag Kris' LinkedIn in the post of this show. So feel free to click on her name and it will take you directly to LinkedIn. Follow her, connect with her. And hey, if you are an entrepreneur that needs a coach or would love to grow your business further, get in touch with Kris. And on that note, we'll end the show here. Sorry for going 10 minutes early above our time slot. But hey, that's the beauty of Hustler show, is that sometimes we go over.
We do what we want.
So guys, I'm going to end it right here. This is a wrap for Hustler. I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Until then, everybody keep safe. And I will just end it on don't let your fears run your life. Just face your fears, because the beauty of the fear isn't there to say, hey, don't do this. The fear is there. I've been saying this a lot in my coaching program. The fear is there to show you something that needs to be worked on, so that you set yourself up for success, so that you don't go through a whole rabbit hole all over again. The fear is there to address the concern and build a strategy so that you can avoid the downfall of it. That's one way to look at fear. But too many times people just look at the fear and just not do anything. It's like, oh, I'm so scared to do it. But address the fear, write it down, and question yourself, why do you have the fear? And I guarantee you, if you dig deeper on the fear, you'll know that the fear really there is to address something for you to grow and get onto the other side. But too many times we just stay in the fear and not get to the other side. So I'm going to end it right here. Hopefully this helps anybody. If you want to be a guest on this show, connect with me. I'm booking for 2022. 2021 is all booked out. It was actually booked out within 2 weeks when I announced the show. But feel free to reach out to me. If you want to reach out to me, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. On that note, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.